as simply and unvarnished as possible. This video has one purpose, and one purpose only: to ask you for money. Not for me, but for Ben Radford's legal funds so he can pursue a defamation suit against Karen Stollznows. Ben Radford is a prominent member of the online skeptical community. He writes books and hosts podcasts and does boots-on-the-ground skeptical investigations that are dismissed by do-nothing, know-nothing, such as P.Z. Myers as the Chupacabra beat. Ben Radford's standing, and for most part his work, should have no bearing on your decision to donate money to his legal fund. What should inform your decision is that Ben Radford is a decent human being who has been falsely accused and vilified by a vindictive ex, aided by the most cynical and deluded elements of free-thought blogs, Skepchick, Atheism Plus, the soft-headed corporate core at the center of the Center for Inquiry, and the rest of the woo-peddling carpetbaggers who have infested the online atheist and skeptical movement with their toxic, self-promoting, and sexually obsessed ideology. Ben Radford had a sporadic long-distance relationship over the course of a couple years from 2009 to 2010, and a cordial working relationship thereafter with another member of the online skeptical community, a PhD in lexical semantics named Karen Stollznows. Stollznows is herself a writer of books and a host of podcasts, but unlike Radford, given the information we now have available, she is far from a decent human being. Radford and Stollznows never worked together in the same physical space, never lived in the same city, or cohabitated. Their relationship could be best described as casual and was based for the most part on conventions and events putting them in proximity for companionship and sex. After a time, the relationship ended on what seemed to be mutually agreeable and amicable terms. In August of 2013, Karen Stollznows published a post on the Scientific American blog titled, "I'm Sick of Talking About Sexual Harassment," in which she alluded to suffering months of sexual harassment and even sexual assault at the hands of an ex-lover and obsessive predatory stalker. Stollznows, playing a game of plausible passive-aggressive deniability, didn't name Radford in the piece, but it was clear to anyone with a double-digit IQ who she was talking about. She also carried out a behind-the-scenes email correspondence with several persons, including Carrie Poppy, she of Michael Shermer is a serial rapist fame, where she spoke of Radford as her obsessive stalker and sexual abuser. No doubt Carrie Poppy was chosen as Stollznows' confidant, as any bullshit that hits her ears travels directly from her fingertips to her keyboard and out to the world at large, unimpeded by any sort of critical faculties or buffer of any kind. Karen Stollznows lied and deceived on a number of issues in order to punish Ben Radford with personal and professional destruction for failing to pursue a relationship with her. Stollznows claims she was harassed and stalked for years by Radford beginning in 2009, when in fact she maintained a correspondence with him during that time he was supposedly stalking and harassing her, and arranged sexual liaisons with him as late as April and September of 2010, when she was engaged to Matthew Baxter. Stollznows claimed it was she who ended their relationship in 2009, when it ended by mutual disinterest in 2011. In this regard, if there is any obsession in the relationship, it's on her part. As the initial focus of her accusations centered around having Radford removed from his writing and podcasting duties with the Center for Inquiry, with whom they were both employed, Stollznows presented as evidence cherry-picked and out-of-context quotes from their email correspondences, altering the dates to make it appear Radford sent them after their relationship had ended. The Center for Inquiry dismissed most charges against Radford, but did find he sent inappropriate emails based entirely on Stollznows' forgeries. In a Twitter conversation with Stollznows' husband, Matthew Baxter, he confirmed to me and others that all he or CFI had to go on was Stollznows' cut-and-paste forgeries. In no time at all, the usual gang of poisonous cretins began writing their own blog posts intent on kicking a guy when he's down before he stops moving, vilifying Radford and greatly expanding on whatever claims were made in the original Scientific American blog post. These members of the Freethought clown car, who have become something of the go-to experts in using online communities and social media to spread malicious gossip, include bottom feeders such as P.Z. Myers, Carrie Poppy, Stephanie Zvan, Jason Thibault, Greta Christina, Ophelia Benson, Rebecca Watson, the binge bloggers at Jezebel, Adam Lee, and Amanda Marcotte. This list is also noteworthy because two of the people making accusations against Radford and spouting the mantra of "believe the victim" are themselves, according to their own accounts, accused rapists. I'm maintaining an archived list of who said what when on the Skepticism Network titled Radford Stollznows Anti-Memory Hole Links, should any of these people grow a sense of self-preservation and or a conscience and attempt to delete everything. The accusations against Ben Radford made by Karen Stollznows and amplified and disseminated by the Freethought blog's Clown Car have hurt him greatly. Not only have they damaged his reputation by accusing him without merit of a number of transgressions, sexual and otherwise, up to and including felonies, but they have severed much of his personal and professional contacts and irreparably damaged his ability to make a living in the skeptical community, and, given the nature of Google, anywhere else for that matter. Make no mistake. What Myers, Watson, and the rest conducted was a campaign of personal destruction against Radford based entirely on the dogmatic assertion that women are to be believed in all cases, male sexuality and personhood is to be suspect in all cases, and most pathologically, because they derive notoriety and personal power from the act of destruction itself. They don't have to hurt people. They just want to. And it's been a long time coming. What happened to Ben Radford didn't spring fully formed from a singularity. The ideology of the clown car, with its emphasis on sexual subjects, sexual harassment, the criminalizing of male sexuality, and dubious concepts such as rape culture, have spent years flailing around for anyone they could use as a test case to prove a foundation to their hysteria. From Lawrence Krauss and Michael Shermer to the poor guy with a camera on a monopod, they have been witch hunters in search of a witch, warmongers looking for their Gulf of Tonkin, boosters for a sex-based police state looking for a rationale to lay down martial law. In a phrase, they are power worshippers in search of power. For a long, long time, Stollznows had the only voice in the conversation. Ben Radford, blindsided and shell-shocked, and perhaps on the advice of counsel, remained silent. He was also attempting to negotiate a retraction in order to clear his name without going forward with a suit against Stollznows for defamation. Stollznows, with Matthew Baxter acting as proxy, apparently used that negotiation to test the waters, and seeing how a retraction would destroy her personal and professional reputation as much as she harmed Radford's, reneged on the deal. As Stollznows' defamation of Radford had been conducted entirely in the court of pseudo-skeptic blog posts, Radford was finally able to present his side of the story, with documentation to back it all up, in his response to Stollznows' accusations. This is no longer a he said, she said, because Ben Radford is the only dog in this fight who has produced verified documentation. It's now a she said, and he has evidence what she said is false. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Read Karen Stollznows' shot across the bow accusation in her original Scientific American post. Read some of the pseudo-skeptical blog post reactions, and then read Radford's response. Read the evidence Radford presents of Stollznows' revisionism of their relationship, recasting the perfectly innocuous correspondences of a person in a relationship as obsessive stalking. What's more, Ben Radford provides hard evidence that the only documentation Karen Stollznows ever produced was forged. What Karen Stollznows did was not an error or subject to interpretation. It was the vendetta of an aggrieved ex-lover. Karen Stollznows, although completely culpable, didn't do it alone. She's an opportunist, but the opportunity was supplied by the uncritical, uncharitable, toxic atmosphere created by bloggers, bloviators, con artists, useful idiots, and people generally trying to use the atheist and skeptical community to free them from the burden of doing useful work. The playbook for Karen Stollznows' vendetta against an ex-lover and the guide for putting her scorn in action was laid out for her a long time ago. Until now, the people playing gossip games and engaging in the politics of personal destruction have done so without consequences or censure. They've skated on their talent for being so ridiculous and inept that they've missed opportunities to so corner someone with lies, prejudice, and slander that their victim had no choice but to fight back. Until now. Ben Radford has brought suit against Karen Stollznows for fraud, libel, defamation, and tortious interference with contractual relations. Through being gifted with a predator's low cunning, Stollznows has managed to raise $60,000, portraying herself as victim of harassment despite her own arrest for domestic violence and a history of making strategic accusations of a sexual nature. This is about Ben Radford and Karen Stollznows. Ben Radford has a right to clear his name and needs the resources to do so, while Karen Stollznows has a well-stocked war chest of monies donated on her fraudulent pretext in order to continue her malicious fraud and pervert the course of justice. But it's more than that. Ben Radford's defamation suit is a test case, just not in the way Free Thought Blogs, Skepchick, and Atheism Plus have intended. What should also be put on trial, whether or not that actually happens, is their thoughtless, mean-spirited, ideological dogpiling of a man who deserves a fair hearing and was, by them, denied exactly that. If my combined YouTube and Twitter subscribers gave just $1, that would provide several $1,000s for Ben Radford's legal funds. I'm asking each of you to give more than that. I'm asking each of you to give and spread the word to give. In an age of Patreon and general e-begging, I've as yet never asked for money for my work, to which I've devoted numerous hours and countless brain cells in order to take the carpetbaggers and free-thought clown car to task. Now this is your chance. I'm asking you to open your wallets. I'm asking you to do the right thing by taking part in the righting of an egregious wrong. Investigate for yourself, read the documents, make up your own mind, and when you do, don't just say, "That's a shame, something should be done about it." Well, something is being done about it, and Ben Radford needs your help to do it. Want to make a difference? Want to be an activist? Want to push back for once? Then hit the link and make a donation so Ben Radford doesn't lose his winning hand simply because he lacks the funds to do so. Ben Radford has already spent his own funds and borrowed money only to have Stollznows string him along, wasting resources. Karen Stollznows gamed Ben Radford with a retraction she never intended to agree to. She has gamed the skeptical community with the complicity of the blog bottom feeders, and now, with her big bank of fraudulent funds, she might just game the courts as well. Enough of this. Please give. And for most part, his work should have no bearing on your decision to donate money to his legal fund. What should inform your decision is that Ben Radford is a decent human being who has been falsely accused and vilified by a vindictive ex, aided by the most cynical and deluded. This video has one purpose, and one purpose only: to ask you for money. Not for me, but for Ben Radford's legal funds so he can pursue a defamation suit against Karen Stollznows. Ben Radford is a prominent as simply and unvarnished as possible. Included elements of free-thought blogs, skeptic, atheism plus, the soft-headed corporate core at the center of the Center for Inquiry, and the rest of the woo-peddling carpetbaggers who have infested the online atheist and skeptical movement with their toxic, self-promoting, and a member of the online skeptical community. He writes books and hosts podcasts and does boots-on-the-ground skeptical investigations that are dismissed by do-nothing, know-nothings such as P.Z. Myers as the Chupacabra beat. Ben Radford's standing